today, a special day, we're actually broadcasting from the Schoology Lounge. You see some terrific artwork behind us of Schoologites who've made that. Really brought our lounge to another level. I feel, it's much more sophisticated than usual Leap. So please be prepared. Brace yourselves. And Kelly, great to have you here. Not in your lovely office in Colorado that I usually see.
Yeah, I get to say live from New York, which I never get to say.
It's something everyone should say in their lives.
Say that at one point.
Yeah.
Live from New York. And
I'm joined also by my wonderful colleagues from the Professional Development Group, Sarah and Joe. Good to have you with us. So, Kelly, I was joking earlier because usually I get to play around with all the Schoology toys, but it's a busy summer when I have actually not touched one, so I roped these guys into it. So thank you, because a little above my head here. We have a lot of things to cover today. The first thing we're going to look at is a preview of the new assessment coming to courses. A lot of you may have heard this, seen some stuff at Schoology Next if you were there, or just seen chatter about it and are anticipating that. Our next Elite next month is going to be totally dedicated to those assessments. But here we want to give you a preview, set some expectations, and Sarah has some stuff set up to show you. It's going to be pretty exciting. We move on and look at the new Google Drive app. This is the new assignment app and the Microsoft app available to you. That's ready to go today, so we want you to be able to play with that. Joe's going to walk us through that, and we'll wrap up, Kelly, talking about some more nerdy. We get on, I'm glad we all. You forgot your glasses.
I should have worn them.
Really? Out.
One of these things is not the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
I
there we
can't
go.
see anything.
Our
prescription.
We may not get to any content today, ladies and gentlemen, but we will wrap up looking at some system permissions that we advise you looking at before the school year starts or just after it starts, and a couple of new permissions that have come out that you may want to know about. So without further ado, Sarah, could you share your screen and get us into this? And while you're doing that, while you're sharing your screen here, I'll mention one thing that is coming up tomorrow. Raise your virtual hand if you like free things. I'm good, yeah. Tomorrow we have our last free webinar that I will be delivering at 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. It's called The Next Steps of Schoology. It's intended for people who've used Schoology for a year or so and are looking to get deeper into the platform, especially looking at groups and resources, curriculum management, and things like that. So Kelly will send out a link to you, and you are free to share this with your entire teaching body. Okay? And that is appropriate for both K-12 and higher ed audience. It's pretty content agnostic. Ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right.
Okay.
So, test quizzes. We love test quizzes. I love that Schoology grades things for me.
Magical.
We have a new thing coming out parallel to that. Same but different, as we like to say. Walk me through. What do we have?
So this is our new assessment feature, and there are going to be quite a few new options inside of this feature. It is going to be a brand new feature that you can add in the system admin setup. So it won't just automatically be in the materials drop-down.
So I feel like you've just told me something that is very comforting. Like, Schoology's not going to just turn this on and suddenly I'm going to be bogged down by questions.
Exactly. You don't have to worry about it showing up and everyone freaking out that they have no idea what it is and they don't know how to use it yet.
Great.
You can release this when you're ready.
I see you have a screenshot of the system settings there.
You do, yes. Well noticed.
They say I'm observant.
Extremely. So from this page, this is just a mock-up. The wording might change a little bit, but just so you guys know what it's going to actually look like. You're probably super familiar with this whole system setting tab if you are a system administrator already. But once you click in there, we're going to have an option that says Enable Assessment Creation. So those are going to be the new assessments, and you'll see it in the drop-down from your Materials tab.
So they can choose to play around with it when they're ready.
Right, exactly. So when you do feel like you're ready and you turn that on, at that point, you're then going to see this new Add Assessment option in the Add Materials drop-down.
So my test quiz doesn't go away. I don't have to worry about that stuff.
No, so they're not exactly the same yet, and they won't be for a little while. So we're keeping both of them in that platform. We don't have to worry about test quizzes with all of your awesome content in them going away for a good amount of time. And you can notice that they're a little different too. So when you're looking at the drop down, you'll first see add test quiz with that normal icon that you're used to with the puzzle piece. And then that second option down that I'm on right now is the add assessment tool with that new icon. So it's sort of square, that teal color, that's your new version of the assessment.
Pretty clear. Let's make one.
Okay, so from here, I'm going to go ahead and create my own new assessment. And this screen is exactly as you probably remember the screen in the test quiz, with one key difference that we've changed here. So I don't know about you guys, but I constantly forgot to turn on the ability to submit tests. I'd build an awesome test, I'd get to class.
Guilty as charged.
And then all of my students, I would say, go ahead and take this test. And they go, oh, I can't get into it, I can't see any of the questions.
And
so,
if you're in the K-12 world, they really enjoy
They
telling
really
you
do that, yeah. My 10th graders would basically just say, I'm not going to do that test then. So to avoid that issue, now we finally got submissions on this screen.
Love it.
This
Love
was a huge hit when we showed this. Stephanie Powell, who's the product manager on assessments, she and I did a session together at Next in Chicago, and people were very excited about this.
Like they were done. They were like, okay.
I genuinely think we got a round of applause. It was a big deal.
Okay, let's get to we can get deeper than this.
Yes, I think it's going to get more exciting. Don't worry. So everything else is exactly the same, so I won't walk through that. I'm going to show you one I've already made. So when I click into a new assessment, we'll come back to these student results. That will be the first option, but I want to show you the setup first. So looks pretty different, right? And we're going to look at a couple tools that look different today as well.
Nice full screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really liked, when they first showed me this, I really liked how much space there was on the screen. Just the ability to see all of the settings, super clean, looks a little different.
And if I recall, in test quizzes, you first create the questions. You actually don't see this setup screen until a couple clicks.
Exactly. So we've still got those 3 tabs, sort of like we had those 5 tabs in test quiz, but the first tab is setup, which feels pretty natural to me.
Great.
So everything on this screen is very, very similar, so I won't go through all the nitty-gritty. I know you guys are going to get a lot more into the details in your next week webinar, so this is a pretty high overview, high-level overview. But under the assessment toolbar area, these are some really cool new tools that I was really excited to see in here. So I often wanted my students to have more options when I had them taking tests than I did, and here are some of the first ones I wanted to point out. So students can flag questions for review, and that will allow them to check off questions that they maybe couldn't answer the first time around. So if they got stuck on a question, or they were having, you know, a blank moment for a second and they wanted to come back to it, they can flag it, and in their review, it's going to tell them that they haven't done it yet. So nice.
Great. So they don't have to go through the entire quiz to just find those.
And click through the ones
Very
they
nice.
missed. Yeah, so much easier. And then certainly in process, I did a lot when I was taking tests was eliminating answer choices, especially for those multiple choice heavy questions. It's really nice to be able to virtually check off the answers you know are not correct. So eliminating answer choices is another tool that you can give students. And that's teacher's choice. So if you want to give them that, you can. If you don't want to confuse them, you don't have to.
Would it be ridiculous calling that the Sudoku feature? You know, you're like eliminating the numbers as you go.
I think we do Sudokus really differently. I guess my way through Sudokus and mess them up every time. So I guess I'm not doing it right.
This is the feature you need.
Maybe we'll build a Sudoku in our new question type and send it out to everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're solving problems left and right here. Okay.
Okay, calm down.
Continue.
So also underneath that space, our math teachers at our session got very excited about this. We have 3 new options around some math tools here. So students can give themselves, or rather you can give your students a calculator, either a mathematic or a scientific calculator here. You also have access to a ruler based on centimeters or inches, and you can give students access to a protractor.
Very cool.
So you turn that on at the whole test level. So any questions they need any of those 3 tools for, they'll have available.
So I've heard that feature request before, and people were thinking item level. I really like that you just turn it on to the quiz.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
And there are a few questions that you guys will dig into, I'm sure, with extra calculator options or keyboard options later, but this is the overall test calculator.
Very cool.
So there are other settings here, but I'll leave you guys to talk about that next time. I want to talk more about the questions with you guys.
Great. Could you show me an example of these questions? And first of all, hello, left-hand side.
Exactly. This column now has 15 different questions in that column. And some of them you're probably familiar with, like we all recognize true, false, multiple choice, ordering, matching. Those are standard question types, but these got a makeover. So they look totally different. When I first started trying this out, I found pretty much all the options that I wanted, but they looked so much cleaner, way easier to navigate. So
but probably took a little bit of getting used to, and then
Definitely.
once you got the new
Right.
ecosystem down.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about how that looks different, because there were a few things that kind of surprised me at the beginning.
Right. Can you show us?
I can show you one question here. I'm going to make a question together with you guys, but I am going to choose a label image question.
Cool.
Just know that the setup is pretty static throughout the platform. So what we see here will be replicated throughout most of the question types.
Great.
So I'm going to go ahead and put in a question here. So from here, I'm just going to put in a question setup. And notice that all of my questions, and this is true for all of the different question types, they're all authored in two parts. This top half is the question setup, and the second part is going to be your correct answer setup.
Okay, so it's two different steps we take.
Yeah, it's distinct. This first section is always going to be you deciding what you want the question to hold, or the assets that you want for students to see. And then the second part is essentially you filling out what you want the students to get correct.
When I first saw this, I found it a little bit disorienting because I was just so used to the other test quiz. But you pointed out this morning that once you got used to it, you found some immediate benefits.
Definitely.
Could you talk to me about those?
Yeah. So one thing that I found myself getting confused about sometimes when I was making tests was that I didn't have the option to immediately see what my question would look like from the student perspective. We spend so much time when you're a teacher being in that instructor mode and thinking about how I build things and how I interact with them as an instructor, and less so about the student experience, which they're spending probably a lot more time in Schoology than we are, so it's really important to think about that.
Fair argument.
So I think from this second section, I'm going to be showing you exactly what the student interacts with the question and how, but I found it way easier to immediately check myself and make sure that I was setting up the question correctly for students.
Great. Cool. So we have the prompt there. What's the next step with this label image?
Well, this question itself is all focused around putting images or putting labels onto an image. Shocking, I know. So I'm going to have to bring in an image here. So I'll select Upload Image, and I'm going to attach a file. And I'm going to use, I had that set up. I'm going to use this image here, which is a roller coaster. So from this one, I just have the image so far. I now want to put on the labels onto the image itself. And to do that, all I need to do is click into the Add Response box here in the top left.
Added a cute little box.
Empty box. There's nothing in it yet. So now I've clicked it 3 times, and I'm going to just drag and drop those boxes around on the question type itself, on the image. And this is exactly what my students will see. So we'll see a preview here in a minute as well. But I now have 3 spots that I need my students to essentially label this image.
Okay.
And now I'm going to put in possible responses. So I can put in as many of these as I want. If I want this to be a relatively simple question, maybe I'm only going to put in the same amount of possible responses as there are boxes to label.
But you're not restricted?
I'm not restricted. I can put in as many as I want. So
like
maybe
distractors.
Right, exactly. Maybe I only have 1 label on this image, and I put in 10 different options from students to choose from. That's a much more complex question.
Very cool.
So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and put in 3 options. I'm feeling very generous today.
It's good to be generous on Leap. You just, you know, want to make
Just for today.
Easy on you
It's all a facade.
This is not her natural state, folks.
And then once I have my possible responses in, I'm done with my setting up of the question. I can then scroll over down to the correct answer.
And there's the image again and
Exactly.
the labels.
That I set up.
And now we set up how to answer the question.
How I hope my students will answer the question, which is correct. So all I need to do is drag and drop. Oops, I just did something wrong here, so I can go back and change that. All I need to do is drag and drop those labels onto the image itself. Cool. And this is what the student will do too. So I like the feeling of being able to figure out what my students actually will interact this question with.
Almost verifying your setup.
Right, and making sure that it felt right.
Great.
And there's even another step to be able to do that I'm going to show you as well.
Sweet.
So I dragged and dropped those onto the right spots. And then a couple things to notice here is that I can actually let my students duplicate those responses. So if they wanted to, they could have put this one answer in all 3. They'll definitely get 33.3% in that scenario. And I can also change scoring options here. So one of the things that I didn't really understand to begin with, but once I dug into it, had awesome feedback here, was that you can really change the specificity of the scoring on these questions. So We're used to having a partial match option for things like matching and ordering.
In this case, you get like 33% for
Right.
each one.
If I mix two of them up and I only got one of them right, I just get automatically whatever proportion of those questions I got right. Those are
Okay.
the points I would get. But if I want to get more specific with that and I want to be really clear about the amount of points I'm going to give my students, I have this little plus sign icon next to the word correct at the top of that correct answer setup.
I like where this is going.
It's exciting. Get psyched. From here, you can choose exactly. You can choose exactly.
Adjust my glasses, folks.
I have to deal with this every day.
We're always this excited. I can choose the exact same amount that I want my students to get percentage-wise. So if I only want them to be getting 50% taken away if they get two of them right, for example, or one of them wrong, then I can decide that specifically and define it in the percentage range on the right-hand side.
Pretty cool.
So especially useful for a lot of questions where you know there is a really particular scoring you want to exist here. I can set that up and essentially have a second best answer.
I also like this because you could potentially use this as a survey tool where you could have a selection of responses and everyone is simply worth 100%.
Yeah.
And then you just look at the responses that you want,
Nice.
which we couldn't do very easily in test quiz, right?
Right,
So,
and that's a big feature request, using a
big
test
feature
quiz as a survey.
Right.
And a lot of the layout options will help you with that. I bet you
Yes.
guys will go over that in the next session as well, because this question doesn't lend itself to that kind of a question.
Yeah.
But there are some really cool ways to set up like a Likert scale kind of situation.
Yes.
Neat.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, without getting too excited and carried away there. Then you also have a penalty score if you want to take away points from students who get an answer
new.
wrong. Occasionally that is used in pretty like high-level assessments when it gets very specific around scoring. So penalty scores was a request there. And then you do have some additional setup options, and I always recommend to take a look at these in all the questions. I spent a lot of time not looking at them because I figured they would be nitty-gritty that I didn't need. And then when I started looking at them, there were so many extra tools in there that I didn't realize I could play with.
Great.
So I love the fact that I can play with some of these options. This one's pretty simple.
Don't have to.
You
but
don't have to, right? And here, if I didn't change any of these, it works exactly the same way as it does right now. But maybe I wanted to change the size of the labels or make the label expand to the size of the answer.
Cool.
I can get really particular.
Sweet.
So then one other thing that's totally new in these questions that I can imagine being used a lot when I'm trying to collaborate with other teachers or other instructors or even other colleagues that I'm working with, I have the option to create author's notes at the bottom of all of my question types. And what that lets me do is tell other people why I set this question up the way I did. So maybe there's a really clear distractor that other teachers might not know exactly why I was putting that in, or maybe there's a justification to me writing the question the way I did. I want everyone who has the option of grading this test to be able to see that justification.
Cool.
So I'm sharing my process with them, and that's exactly how author's notes will show up. Not to students, just to the people grading this or building this.
Great. Terrific.
And everything else is very similar, so you can still add learning objectives here in exactly the same way that you could before. One cool new feature, I showed you how I could sort of preview this as a student by playing with that correct answer setup.
Okay.
This preview question button in the top right actually allows you to play with it as the student. And my favorite thing, I can check that I set it up correctly and not miskey the answers, because let's say I put in the incorrect order, I'll see in the top that I did not get any points for that.
Oh, these points are actually tied into this. This is live.
Exactly. So it's
Sweet.
telling me what I'm going to score my students.
Cool.
If I fix that and I get the correct answer, which I should, seeing as I made this question,
I believe
now,
in you. I
thank
think you can do it.
I remembered it today. Physics was not my strong suit. I can show this 100% here, and now I
Right.
know I put in the answers correctly.
So I like that in test quiz you preview the whole thing just to really see the result of one,
Exactly.
but you actually can't submit that.
Right.
So
You never
doing
know.
this point verification doesn't allow you to verify the key. It allows you to verify what the question says, but not the key.
Exactly.
Here we get to verify the key.
The key itself and each question individually, which is a little bit different. It took me some getting used to, but I actually really like doing it this way.
Awesome.
So once I'm happy with that, I'll just hit save, and then the question is going to save in my test itself.
Great.
And then
There
I've got
it
a
is.
question built out.
Cool.
We had a good question that came in actually from David. You know, we have seen a lot of good, cool things happening with test quiz and embedding. And so he was asking, like, what if there's something that's on YouTube where you want to, you know, bring that in? Can we do that with the new test, with the new assessment, such as the test quiz? And I think something you probably noticed looking at Zara's screen is that the rich text editor, as we know it, looks a little different. But now, instead of that insert content area where we may have put in embed code, you'll see something that says source. And if you're someone who does use embed code, you can do that and paste in those embeddable items that can also add a lot of richness to an assessment.
That brings me right to the HTML and pop in the embed code there.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Again, takes some getting used to, but once you're in there, it's a cool way to use that. That's a
Okay.
good question.
Great. And then when you pop back out, we see, I believe, the submissions
You got it. Yeah.
area.
So this is just going to be all of your questions that you've created. There are a bunch of things that you'll probably get into using there. But then we also see student attempts. So when a student has submitted attempts, your student attempts field starts filling up with all those students. So you'll see each student, what they actually got on the quiz, and then you'll be able to go into that quiz to see the information from that screen as well.
Great. Awesome. So now, when we were discussing this and planning this out, we got into a conversation about the differences between this and test quizzes,
Right.
and that this is the first iteration of new assessments, and that while we've seen so many new things here that I'm pretty excited to play with now, there are some things that Test Quiz has as a totally matured product
Right.
that we have decided not to build here, right? Tell me about, don't need to know the details, we'll cover that next month, but if I have a lot of Test Quiz and I'm using like every bell and whistle possible, right? But I want to play with this too, one of the things missing is like a conversion tool. We haven't built a conversion tool yet.
Right.
What do I do? What are your thoughts around that? Kelly, Joe, feel free to jump into this.
Yeah. I think this is an area that we've talked a lot about, and when I first started playing with assessment, there were definitely those bells and whistles that I saw or I didn't see that I really wanted to see in there. So I got to chat a lot with the product managers about this, and I'm actually kind of happy that it's already out even without those features, because this means we get to start playing with it. So what I would say in terms of, well, what do I do? Do I start using this instead of my test quiz? But what about those features I still use in test quiz? What about all the test quizzes I've already built out that I love and I'm using all the time?
Right.
Do I have to stop using them? I would say keep doing what you're doing. Test quiz is an awesome tool that you can continue to use. It's not going away anytime soon. And then start using assessment for shorter, more kind of experimental things that you're playing with, because all of these question types are so fun and interactive. So you can start building out new questions that are maybe not even a whole quiz setup, but maybe just a quick, like an exit slip we talked about, maybe a quick homework assignment, maybe just something to do as an enrichment tool at the end of class for students who finished work early.
Little formatives along the way that
exactly.
allows you to play. I mean, if
Even
there
if
are,
it's not.
15 things,
Right.
you have to do a lot of playing
So
and
many
experimenting.
choices. And it's super engaging for students. So there are some really fun things that they can start playing with that it will be good for you to practice with so that you're prepared to start building them out
that
later.
hotspot one I'm
Yeah.
excited about. There's a graph one that looks really
and
fun.
so many question types for math teachers specifically
Yeah.
that have been heavily requested. So especially if you're looking for something that you cannot currently do in test quiz, a lot of the question types in your assessment are going to answer those options.
And I imagine these are also going to meet the needs of a lot of our higher education institutions that do a lot of virtual learning where they really want a more robust assessment piece there. So it'll be interesting to see how they use this product.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd actually, say almost as in reverse, that if you were teaching K-5, for example, these question types are really dynamic and engaging for younger learners. So you may want to start actually doing some really cool stuff with drag and drop with students that really need something where they're matching letters to a picture or something. Again,
Or the hotspot one where you just have an image and you just need to find something in it.
Yeah. So, I mean, even I think we've heard people talk about maybe using those as like picking the right spelling word and dragging it in the right spot. Like there's a lot of things we can do that are like fun interactive stuff. Maybe not high stakes at this point. I think it's a really great idea to, as Zara said, get in there and get playing with it. That's kind of the nice thing about the way we built out this change model, is we're building awareness about what this tool is and how to get to it eventually, and giving people a chance to get comfortable before test quiz eventually goes away, which again will not be for some time.
Cool. Very well. Sarah, thank you for
My pleasure.
enlightening us.
Thanks for having me.
And again, not out yet, but we will be sending out some communications to you about this before it comes out. And then the next LEAP webinar will be all about this product, a full training. And I assume we're adding this to the professional development catalog as well.
And we'll have a lot of videos about the question types too, so you'll have a really good understanding of all of the ins and outs.
Cool. By the way, you're available next month because there's this webinar that I might want to talk to you about.
Is that?
Well, great. Well, while Joe comes up to the driver's seat here, we have a good poll to throw out to you all because we're about to go talk about Google Drive and Microsoft OneDrive. So let's get a sense of what you all are using and also share the results with you so you know what each other are using. Of course, we have a lot of districts and higher ed institutions who use both. Often you've picked one or another.
I did it. You inspired me.
These shenanigans over here.
Kind of.
So we have some results coming in, Kelly?
Yes, we do.
Well, as they slow down, let's go ahead and share those results out to you.
All right. Any guesses? I want to make any predictions.
Okay, I'm guessing, I don't know, is it like a Google 60%, Microsoft like, I don't know, 30, 40%?
I'm going to guess Google like 70.
A little like mix.
And then a mix of everything else.
Okay. All right.
Is there money on this? I don't know if I just committed to something.
Well, I was thinking like Zara could actually peek at my screen, so I was like, did you just
Oh,
cheat?
no, I didn't.
You cheated. You definitely did.
I swear I
Yes,
didn't.
but yeah, Zara was the closest, 71%. And this is just for the people that obviously just responded, are using Google Drive for students to do work. And then we have about 12% with Microsoft OneDrive, and then none for iCloud.
Okay.
Not a shock. Not a shock. Yes, yeah. And then a mix of the above. We have a lot of that are to have students do work in both. So
Cool. Awesome. So, Joe Salo, certified Google educator.
But I am.
A man of many titles, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so the first thing that I want to get a sense of here is I love Google Drive. I've been wanting to see it change in Schoology for a while. Kelly and I have been a squeaky wheel about this.
that is so true.
And just what you can do with teaching and learning has been so cool with both Microsoft now and Google, putting everything into the cloud, fostering online collaboration, and just real-time learning. First thing I want to understand is this thing that we're talking about, is this an update to the current Google Drive app that everyone is familiar with? Do we need to look for some kind of update there?
That's a great question, Bradley.
I try to ask the best.
Yeah, not pre-planned at all. Just totally off the cuff. So it is actually an additional application. It is not your Google Drive resource app that you are currently used to using. Same thing with the Microsoft OneDrive app. It is not the same app. You'll actually see that in a different location in the App Center. You'll have to install that separately, and it will actually be in a different location.
Oh, so do I just go ahead and delete that old one I was using?
We want to continue to use the Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive resource apps because that will give us access to those resources within our drive. So we want to keep that. There is still absolutely use for each of those applications in different scenarios.
So not a replacement, not an upgrade, simply a new app.
Simply a new app. I don't know if it's simply a new app, but it is a new app.
Make
and
the case.
Simple to use. But a lot of work put into this. So what we're looking at right now is actually my App Center. I am logged in as a system administrator. And why I'm logged in as a system administrator is because I like to have all the power. But also because our recommendation is that this application should be installed organizationally. And it'll make it a lot easier for everyone to use. It's not going to impact anybody in a negative way if they're going to have access to this.
And this is out now. If you're following along, you could do this right now.
Yeah, you could do it right now. So at the top of the App Center, when we go to it, there will be a new banner that has a whole bunch of, or kind of a carousel in a way, of applications that are scrollable at the top. Whenever I come in, and I'm sure this is for everybody, Google Drive assignments will actually be right there at the top center of your App Center. Notice that it is separate from the Google Drive Resource app. The Google Drive Resource app is still its own entity.
Great.
So I'm going to go ahead and click on this new assignment workflow app from Schoology. And I am going to select the Install LTI button, app button. I do want to point out, because this question will come up, notice the icons that are in that Google Drive Assignments app. Those indicate docs, slides, sheets, and drawings. Those are the document types that we're going to be able to use.
Very
inside
cool.
of this app.
So this is not limited to the docs.
Not limited to the dock.
Cool.
So, I mean, having drawings in there, great stuff that we can do with that.
Very cool.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and install this LTI app. I've already done this. It's not going to impact anything anyway. I'm going to select Add to Organization because I am a system administrator. And I'm going to be brought to my organization apps page. You'll notice that I have, they are the same icon currently for Google Drive assignments and Google Drive resource apps, so just make sure that you're taking a look at those names and determining that you're going to the right one. Click on Install/Remove and just ensure that all courses, the checkbox for all courses is checked. We're not going to worry about course admins only. We don't want to check that. We're just going to leave that open. Just the one box that says all courses and submit that. We're not going to have to configure anything like you might be used to with configuring LTI tools where you have to use a consumer key.
No keys.
No key. No. That button's there. If you click on it, it'll ask for it. It's not necessary. You don't even worry about it. All you have to do is that install process that I just showed. So from there, I'm going to go into a class. It's my first class of the day and first time I remember using it. So I am going to assign. Looks
like you have a lot of lessons to build out here, Joe.
I have quite a bit to do.
Only
I knew somebody that could do that for me. So I'm going to get started because I'm a powerhouse when it comes to building content in Schoology, right?
Let's get going.
So I'm going to select my Add Materials button and go to the Add Assignment option, material type. And when I go to the Add Assignment material type, this is where that application will exist. A lot of people ask, I installed this application, where is it? I don't see it.
Like I see Nearpod and other cool apps along the left-hand side. We're not seeing that.
We're not going to see that there. This is an assignments app. It directly ties into the assignment material type.
Very cool.
And you'll also notice on my screen that I have both Microsoft and Google installed, so they both can exist simultaneously. If you use both, if you're an organization that uses both and you want to push this out for everybody, it's right there for them.
Great. And any questions at this point?
Well, the only question we have is David Simmons reminding Joe that he has 10% battery left.
9 now.
So it's a little bit of stress, yes.
Let's go.
We're good.
Suspense.
He
lives
good.
on the edge.
I'm cool as a cucumber, so we're good. But thank you. No, I've been watching that. So I'm just going to create this Google assignment.
What will happen? Will he make it, ladies
Will
and
he
gentlemen?
make it?
And so this is the same rich text editor that we've always used. If you wanted to put embeddable content in here, really great direction, some other engaging content that you want to put in it, you can still do that. It's still fully functional. In fact, it looks better because we have a new look and feel, like Sarah had mentioned with the assessments. New look and feel will be in this new feature as well.
Editing process the same, the published version updated. Cool.
And so I'm just going to type in generic directions here. Everything else will be normal. I'll select my due date, my category. I'm going to actually choose to grade via my special Google rubric, which is a bunch of nonsense learning objectives. But once I attach that rubric, I am now going to, and you can do this in any order you want, but I'm going to go to my Google Drive assignments.
Cool.
And I'm looking for my document, but I can't find it. So what I'm going to do is use this
scroll.
Nice new feature, newish feature back in April. And search for my mitosis document, my mitosis lab.
Search.
I said search. I did.
You said that this morning, and my brain almost I almost had to cancel the webinar.
So yes, we can search.
Well, the most requested feature in our Google Drive app.
And we can search right for this. So I'm going to find my mitosis lab, which I actually grabbed from New Visions for Public Schools.
Great content.
And
OER stuff.
Yeah, and you'll notice with this it says this will create a copy of your file for each student. I get asked oftentimes, what if I wanted to just push one copy out for everyone to view and not do anything with it? That's why we still have the resource app. We still have those capabilities. This app is designed to manage permissions back and forth between teacher or instructor and student, as well as creating a copy for each individual student based on one template. So I want to save paper, time, and have live collaboration features that Google has right within Schoology, then I can do that. So I'm going to go ahead, hit create. And we're going to be brought back to my materials page. I'll click on this Google assignment. And here's the new look and feel for that particular application.
Hello.
Much nicer, full screen. You don't have those directions in one little column. Things aren't getting blocked out by any type of pop-up window. Directions are right there. I see the assignment. The rubric is also attached, also a different rubric view. It's not in that table view anymore.
Okay.
It's technically still a table here, but a little bit more palatable for each user. I, as the instructor, have assignment. Go ahead. You got a question for me?
Speechless. Wow. That's all I got.
I, as the instructor, have the assignment, in progress, and submissions tab up at the top. This will be a little bit different for student, and I will show that in just a moment. But I'm going to go over in progress because I want to see what my students are doing. And I only have one student enrolled in this class, and it looks like he hasn't opened up his assignment yet. This assignment is actually not generated. The Google Doc itself is not generated until the student goes into that assignment and clicks on their document.
So very different than what we have in just a normal assignment where we have the filter that shows that if things have been submitted or late,
Exactly.
We actually get a live sense here of if they've opened that.
Absolutely.
It's like an hour before period starts, 5 students still haven't opened it. And then I see they opened it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You don't even have to check revision history. You already know.
Yeah.
So this isn't showing up yet in my student account. I'm currently over as a student. I have to reload the page and just came in, saw my Google assignment. I could have just logged in and seen that from my upcoming feed as well.
Great.
The student has essentially the same view. They're not going to see an in progress or submissions because they're not supposed to. We just want them to see their document, the descriptions and directions.
Okay.
I click on my document, and it will open.
Drum roll.
There we go.
Ooh.
And here is this mitosis lab.
So right inside of Schoology, no weird hacks, no embed codes,
Nope.
nothing.
Didn't touch an embed code.
And wait, is this just the copy? I mean, is this just the version that the teacher or faculty?
So the same. No, this is a version, a copy of that in faculty members.
This is already the copy.
This is the copy. I didn't have to do anything. Go to File, make a copy. I don't have to manage anything in my drive for the students.
And if I'm the student, is this also already in my drive too?
It is actually going to be located in the Shared with Me section of that drive. The organization and where those documents are housed will be in the instructors. When you install this app and actually create an assignment, it will create a folder called Schoology Google Assignments, and in those folders we'll have each course. Making sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Each course, and then inside of that course folder will be the assignments folders, and all of those student copies will be housed there.
Awesome. Theirs
will be located in their Shared with Me within their drive. And it'll also retitle that document with the student's name in there. So the student's name is Student 1, so I can go into Drive and also see that. I don't need to go into Drive to access any of these.
All right there.
Schoology.
Can you scroll down a little bit, Jim? We had a request they want to see the rest of what the screen looked like.
The whole document here?
So as you scroll down, the toolbar stays there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I can, as the student, go ahead and edit live here.
Very nice.
And then I can go back back to my instructor view. And I'm going to reload here because right now there was nothing in progress prior to that. Now that I have had a student open it up, I do have to connect my account here. There we know. I have the student's live document right here. I can see that they just typed in, this is a question, it shows me where they are.
Nice.
I can comment to the student.
So this is before they've submitted it.
This is before they submitted, so we both have edit permissions in this document.
Okay, so if I am teaching a class, let's say brick mortar or a virtual class, once this is handed out, I can literally just sit at my desk and bring up different students' documents as they're working on it in real time.
I can have a list. I don't have to move out. I can flip through each of them in real time, go from each student, click from student to student. There isn't any saving. It's Google Doc. It's auto-saving. So
what ELA teachers are freaking out right now.
And it's in Schoology. That's a big part of it too.
Right there.
So I, as the instructor, went ahead and put a comment on this student's work. They'll see that comment as I worked on it. So this is actually not a question that they typed in here. And now the student's ready to fix it. They don't really care about my feedback, so they're just ready to submit.
Poor Joe.
Yeah, can never win. So I'm going to go ahead and submit as the student.
Great.
Once I submit, I'm actually relinquishing control over this document as an edit owner. I'm going to go into view-only mode, and I get this little rocket ship that says, hey, launch successful, we're good to go.
Cute Schoology.
Yeah.
Ooh, I want a badge of that.
So we'll see that the students view only now, and I will then go back. I do have the ability as a student to unsubmit this document, to
Great.
bring back my control, but only up until the due date. So
Okay.
if the due date expires, the instructor can actually return that document back to the student, but the student won't be able, their unsubmit button will go away because we don't want them to last minute change something and unsubmit. We want that right there for them.
So even though they're not submitting something into Schoology like the previous workflow for Google, and then Schoology makes that PDF thing that's locked down, it's still locking it down just within the drive permissions.
Yeah, and we're not
Cool.
resubmitting versions. We're working within the same document.
Right.
So I'm back over as my teacher. When I reload my page, my student's no longer going to be in progress because student 1 has just submitted. So it'll move them over from in progress to another tab. So there aren't any assignments right now. I got this nice little, teacher guy with his feet up. I got nothing to do.
It's like a good life.
Yeah. No one's ever experienced that, right? So.
Who's that guy? What district does he work in?
All right, so I click over on submissions as the instructor, and I can see the student's document. I can edit and comment on it. I can do whatever I need to for the student to provide feedback while I'm grading that. And speaking of grading, I can actually go over to this rubric icon on the top right-hand side of this panel and open up our new rubric view.
Whoa.
Super exciting.
Oh, the rubric isn't covering the assignment?
It's not covering the assignment.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's right over there on the side. I can move it out of the way if I need to. I can bring it back. What I can also do, I still have my criteria level grading. I can override a grade, type a grade in, or I can just select from the fields that I built when I built that rubric. I can also use the criteria level commenting and the gradebook level commenting.
So
and then
same rubric feature set, just looks different and nice widescreen view there.
We got a question from Brian about how Schoology then handles late assignments. So, in the way that we now can say we're going to lock the assignment, like, how is that changed, or is it different with our Google integration?
Great question.
So with the assignment itself, you're saying with the locking option?
Yeah.
Yep. Or when something is late, do you see that
Absolutely.
So after the due date passes, you mentioned that I can't unsubmit it and stuff.
The student can still submit.
Okay.
Right? So they'll still be able to submit their document. They just won't have that option to unsubmit. That due date is going to regulate that option.
Right.
You still have your locking tools, your individually assigning tools, and within the Google assignment, we can also filter out if we want to see who's late, who's on time. We can also use this filter. I'm not going to have anything in here because I've only got one student and he submitted on time, but I won't have anything late. But if a student had submitted late, I still have that. It's very similar to, it's just a new look, but it's similar to the old traditional
I bet that's the answer we were looking for right there. Very cool. Amazing.
Yeah, and so that's the Google Flow. The only difference between Microsoft and Google, well, I don't want to say the only difference, but the main differentiating factor between Google and Microsoft's workflow is that Microsoft will have an edit button on the document that will actually open it up in another tab. So we won't be able to embed at this point those documents in here like the Google Flow, but you still will have the full functionality, and it generally does make it much easier.
Great. So we still have this whole piece, how we're viewing documents, but when student edits it, they pop it out in another window to keep editing. Great. Love it. Cool. Now, Joe, one thing I did want to ask you is that a couple of people who are experimenting with this, I saw an issue come up when I believe the situation was they weren't paying attention and they logged into a personal Gmail or Microsoft account and then opened this. Is that something we should be aware of?
That is something that we definitely should be aware of, and we do have documentation on this where we're finding if individuals were logging in with their personal Gmail account and not their school domain provided account, that application, the Schoology application, would make that link between their personal account and that course inside of Schoology. And in order to remove that association, if we wanted to get back to our in-domain school account, we would have to go into the Google Apps management system in the account and remove that application and just reconnect with that new account. It will just reestablish that connection.
Right.
I guess the best way,
and put it back
the best way to explain it is the old router, plug it back, or unplug it and plug it back in.
Nice.
Which I had to do.
And got it.
And
I
I know,
guess the rule of thumb is pay attention to where you're logging in.
and I know I talked to our product manager, Kelsey, on that, and then we're aware, and it's obviously an issue we want to resolve. So we don't have to go in and take care of that. Mistakes will be made.
But it doesn't sound like a very big
It's
issue.
not a big deal. It's very easy. If you just know where to go, and you just won't do it again.
Yeah, I find that paying attention to if I'm logged into Chrome or not, and because once in a while you can accidentally be logged into your Chrome browser in a personal account, and that could trip you up.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Any other questions about this before we?
And I made it with 4% to go, guys. So.
I know we had a question.
He made it.
We had a question from Ann, who is my friend from Nebraska, and Ann is going to be very close to the total eclipse. Like, they're right in line. So.
Will it all go down when the eclipse?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So Ann's question is, in that view that you have, you see the rubric and the score, and there's an exception with a flag.
Exception.
Yep. So she was like, "What is that exception flag?"
So the exception
wow,
flag.
That's a great question.
We are familiar with exceptions inside of the Schoology gradebook.
Some of you may not be. It is I will give a caveat
I said
here.
we.
Yes.
We.
Okay, we. But the royal we.
The royal we.
It is a somewhat buried
It
feature
is.
in the gradebook.
Yeah, it's
really super powerful.
You go into your gradebook and you hover over into individual cells, and there's this little flag that pops up in the bottom left-hand side of each grading cell. And oftentimes we get asked, and Sarah and I consistently when we're doing training, well, what if I want to mark something as missing or incomplete, or they don't have to do this, and I don't want this to be an empty grade cell for them. So we do have those exceptions so that they interact with the gradebook properly. We have that built right into this particular feature.
Right here, so you don't have to go into your gradebook to do it later. I really like that.
So as the instructor can go ahead
Yeah.
and say, this student, I'm excusing them from this document or from this assignment because they're awesome.
And if memory serves correct me if I'm wrong, excuse and incomplete ignore the score from the cumulative grade, but missing marks it as 0.
It will mark it as a 0, yes.
Great.
And I did put a link in the chat area to our support article on exception flag, so that if you need more information, it's all there. The screen caps there are really about the gradebook interaction with it, so it doesn't really show what we were just showing for the Microsoft and the Google integration, but same things apply.
Great.
And enjoy that total eclipse because I was trying. I couldn't get there. Couldn't do it.
Airbnb.
I got close. I had it blocked off on my calendar for months. Months.
Give me an on-site training in Nebraska.
I tried. I was there for 2 weeks last year.
Yeah.
Couldn't get it this year.
Oh, man.
I miss you, Nebraska. First time I've ever said that.
So, amazing. Kelly, we've looked at all these instructional tools. Let's just, our audience here are lots of system admins. To wrap up, it's that time of year, we're starting school, always a good time to review permissions, but also a good time to go back and just check to see if Schoology changed anything in the last year in that system role. What are we looking at right now?
Well, I would say not just what has changed in our system, but what has changed in your system. So if you have new people that have been added to your system admin, folks, or there have been some changes with emails or whatever, make sure that's accurate, because when we communicate out some of these new features, it's going to your system admins at your organization, and we want to make sure that list is accurate, but you have to verify that for us to help us out.
That's right.
Once you're in the system admin side, there's permissions that are probably good for you to take a look at, especially as we look at beginning of year. One thing that we always try to remind people about is section linking for courses. Some districts have that turned on for teachers. It's probably a good idea to disable it after a certain window of time, because if you unlink after linking, it can cause a lot of data loss in terms of the course materials you may have had in your sections. So that's one you may want to toggle on and off depending on your time frames. We also have a couple of new permissions that are in there that maybe you didn't see last year. We did talk about the ability to override section names. That was new last year. Also, allowing admins to change the name of a student, a first name, because sometimes that comes in from your sys, and it kept getting overwritten. So that's something that you could always go back and see. Something came in after the beginning of school started last year. And then also there's some new ones coming in terms of what viewership looks like at the course admin level. You'll be seeing a flag for what we're calling a view gradebook, which means that you can actually have like an assist or a para who can view the gradebook in your course if they're a co-admin, but they can't actually edit any of the content inside the gradebook. That's been a highly requested feature. And then the last thing, and I might ask Joe to actually bring up his home area, there's something available now called Course Dashboard, and it's a different way to view when you first get into your home screen.
I made Sudoku.
I saw
while
that.
they were talking, so it's just.
That's a Sudoku?
Yeah, I made it while you guys were talking.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Assessment toys, I have no idea how we did that.
I got excited and saw it and thought about doing it.
Sorry, Joe, I just put you in the spot.
Yeah, that's all right.
That Sudoku is going to kill your battery, son.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. I got 2%. We're good.
So on the course dashboard view is a way to view like your courses in like a tile interface instead of having to go to the drop down and maybe being hit with the recent activity feed. A lot of our K-5 students interact better when they see tiles and see images, and so if that's something that you'd like to see in your domain, contact your client success manager and we can actually turn that on for your domain and then give you some supporting documentation about what that means and what that might look like.
Very cool.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of elementaries that, like, I was a high school teacher.
Yeah.
I still want this.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I had this turned on for me because I love it.
Yeah.
So.
I'm old-fashioned.
Yeah, I know.
I like recent activity feed. Call me old-fashioned.
We'll call you old.
We will.
Look, to work with these guys every single day. Don't know what it's like, people. Well, thank you all so much for going over these amazing features. By the way, if you want more training, those free trainings tomorrow, the last one. And there is already a recording of our First Steps with Schoology webinar that we did Tuesday and Wednesday. It's on the YouTubes. If you go to Schoology's YouTube channel, you will find that recording, and feel free to share that with your faculty and staff. We do this the third Thursday of every month. Talk new features, best practices, and all sorts of great things. Next month, all about assessments. We will see you then. Thank you all for joining me.